everyone. So today I wanted to go over the pelvic floor, and in thinking about it, originally I wanted to do a yoga class, which I will do in a future video, but I realized that in order to move through that class, you need to be able to understand how to turn your pelvic floor on, as well as how to relax your pelvic floor. So we're going to kind of talk about those two things today. So the pelvic floor terminology is kind of tossed around a lot, and everybody's saying, you need to be able to engage the pelvic floor and engage your core. But the first thing I'll go over is what is the pelvic floor? So we have four main components of our core muscles. So a lot of people, when they think core, they think the four major abdominal muscles, which, don't get me wrong, are great and important muscles to have, but they're only one piece of the pie, for lack of a better phrase. So we have our abdominal muscles, and then we have our pelvic floor muscles, which kind of create the bowl within the pelvis, and they hold all our organs in, so kind of important, as well as when they can contract, they create a stability within the torso that allows us to move with more control and prevents any kind of extremity injuries from happening. And what I mean by that is sometimes we'll have repetitive elbow pain from repetitive motions, but if we're stronger within our core and our center, we have a less likely chance of something of that happening. Same thing a lot of times with knee pain. We're going to focus a lot on central stability to be able to offload the stresses on the other joints of the body. So I won't go over all of the pelvic floor muscles because there are a lot, but just knowing that there's that kind of bowl at the bottom of your pelvis, and these muscles need to be strong in order to create a stable pelvis and create a stable lumbar spine. On top of that, our diaphragm is a part of our core, and then there's small muscles in our low back called multifidi, which are also a part of our core. I like to include the glutes and the hip flexors as part of secondary muscles of the core because it's important to have both mobility and stability of those muscles. But for today's video, we'll focus on the pelvic floor muscles. So if you were having any pelvic floor pain, meaning pain in the area of your privates, or any low back pain, SI joint pain, that very bottom piece of your lumbar spine where the tailbone is and where the sacrum is, then if you were to go see a women's health specialist or just a pelvic floor specialist, not only would they be looking at if you could be able to contract the pelvic floor, they're also looking to see, can you relax the pelvic floor? And I would venture to guess that it's probably 50-50. Some people need to work on the contraction portion of it, and others need to learn how to relax that piece of it. Because we hold tension, just like we hold tension kind of up into our shoulders, we hold tension in our pelvic floor as well. And so having a balance between those two is really important. And also having a balance and knowing how to contract and relax those is really important in the birthing process. When we're giving birth, you need to be able to relax the pelvic floor and engage the abdominal muscles to press the baby out without straining against tension in the pelvic floor itself. So in future videos, when we're talking about contract and relax, we really want to learn and know what those two things mean. So the best way to describe contraction or a Kegel of the pelvic floor is to think about stopping the flow of urine when you're voiding. We don't recommend, as physical therapists or as people who are treating pelvic floor, we don't recommend using that technique often because we don't want to mess with the mechanics of voiding. We want to teach the body to relax those muscles and kind of let the urine come out. However, every once in a while, to kind of check on yourself and make sure that you are activating and you are kind of able to contract those muscles, you could certainly test that out. In my mind, the way my brain works, the best cue that I ever heard, and you keep seeing me do this or this because that's what I'm visualizing in my brain, is almost like my vagina or my urethra is a straw, and it's sucking up and in. So it's not only contracting, but it's drawing up and in. And that tells you that it's a full contraction of the pelvic floor muscles that we're looking for. So there are different ways to kind of feel that. Some people can just kind of squeeze and they'll be able to feel. Other people need tactile cueing. So don't hesitate to place your fingers on your perineal muscles, feel them, and then see, okay, am I lifting? Is it contracting? Is it truly happening? To just kind of give you a little bit of a cueing for that. And if you're still struggling, please reach out to your local physical therapist, your local women's health specialist, or pelvic floor specialist to learn the correct technique. Sometimes pre-birth is great, or prenatal is great, or particularly postpartum, it's awesome to kind of check in. Maybe you only need one visit to make sure, like, hey, did everything kind of come back the way that it should have in terms of, am I, contracting? And so I recommend to my patients to our women's health specialist, and they'll sometimes say, oh yeah, you're fine, do X, Y, and Z, and you're looking good. And other times they'll say, oh no, you need a little bit more help, depending on what they're finding in terms of your ability to contract and relax. So I hope that gives you a little bit more of an idea of what we mean when we say the pelvic floor and why it's so important to learn how to contract it. Again, to stabilize that pelvic girdle, to keep everything nice and solid so that our movements with our extremities don't overuse our other joints and we're really moving from our center and not moving from our extremities. As well as learning how to relax that pelvic floor. If you're somebody who tends to be stressed or anxious, learning how to relax that pelvic floor, particularly in preparation for birth, so that you can relax that pelvic floor and allow the baby to come through. Larger rips and tears from the research that I've done are shown to happen because of that tension in the pelvic floor. And in future videos, we'll kind of talk about there's other ways other than just trying to relax the pelvic floor that allow you to prepare that area for the birthing process. And we'll talk about that in a future video. But I hope this helps. If you have questions, don't hesitate to leave them below. I'm more than happy to answer because I just want everybody to understand and learn more about their body and what's going to serve them. I hope you have a great day.